Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is another in my practice session series for the Red Hat Certified Specialist in Managing Automation with Ansible Automation Platform Exam EX467. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone who's watching, if you haven't subscribed, to click that subscribe button. Also, a reminder that these are my practice sessions for the exam. I'm going through all of the posted objectives from Red Hat and either trying to demonstrate the objective or explain the concept behind it. And at the end of the video, I'll do a little assessment and hopefully I'll feel confident in the objective. If not, well, unfortunately for me, time is about up because my exams, today is Sunday, my exam's on Tuesday, so there's not going to be learning anything new. But I figure since I typically do this for my Red Hat exams, I would finish out the practice session series. So hopefully I'll feel pretty confident with this. All that being said, these should not be considered tutorials, nor should they be considered any type of training material, nor should they be considered authoritative information. Now, the information that I'm going to speak in these hopefully is going to be accurate, because I would hope that, 2 days before my exam, I haven't learned stuff wrong, but understand that I am learning right along with everyone else. So even though I'm putting these on the internet in hopes of those that are preparing for the exam, if you see some of the stuff I do that might give you some ideas of things you can do on your own for preparation, these should not be considered like official training materials or anything of the like. So in this video, we're going to finish up the objectives under the install and configure automation mesh set. We did the installation in a previous video, and that took a while. So I'm going to kind of pick up where I left off there. And really the rest of these are dealing with instance groups. And let me go ahead and log into the control node lab.controller, and we'll talk about instance groups for a minute. I'll just log in as the admin account. So instance groups are really kind of like groups of resources to use, because when you're using the automation mesh, you create basically a control plane and an execution plane. The control plane is where your control nodes are, and then the execution plane are different servers that are basically running all of the Ansible stuff against your managed nodes. The idea behind this is, you separate those duties out. And you can kind of have a more distributed architecture for your stuff. The idea behind instance groups is these are kind of logical groupings of these resources. You have, when you first install Automation Mesh, you create a control plane, which this instance group is going to contain the control nodes or the hybrid nodes as well, because that's actually the default type of control plane object is the hybrid node. And then you have a default instance group, which is everything. So this will include your control nodes. These will include your execution nodes. If you have any hop nodes, they would be a part of this as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind is this isn't the same as like your managed nodes. These can still be managed nodes themselves, but they have within the Ansible Automation Platform a specialized function. So one way to use instance groups, and again, I have not had the opportunity to work in a production environment with Ansible Automation Platform. I can just kind of extrapolate what I think would happen based off of the training and such, and just general experience as a system administrator and using, non-Ansible Automation Platform Ansible. A key use for instance groups, especially for your execution nodes, is being able to have some geographic separation. For example, let's say you have two different data centers in different parts of the world. Well, you can group your execution nodes that are in one data center in one instance group and the other in the other instance group. And so that way, when let's say that you have managed nodes that are in data center 1, in your you're running your job templates and such, you can say, hey, use these execution nodes in data center 1 to run against these hosts in data center 1, rather than using execution node in data center 2 and all that having to go over your WAN. So there's a couple of ways to configure instance groups. I'll make sure, create and manage instance groups. The first is through the GUI. I can add instance group, and I'm just going to call it test instance 1. The policy instance minimum and maximum I haven't used yet. I think if you were to like automate the creation of instance groups, you can define, how many of your different nodes can go into it. I'm not 100% sure on that, and frankly, I probably should edit that sentence out because I really don't know about it. Hopefully, it's not going to come up on the exam. If it is, I'm kind of toast, but hopefully not. And then once you have your instance group, you can associate is the official term, different things to it. We're going to put lab node 1, which is one of our execution nodes, in this instance group. And click health check here. All right, so it thinks everything is healthy. This capacity adjustment, this is kind of curious. This I have not messed with, but I can imagine. See what resources I've actually. This is probably not going to be on screen because I'm only sharing this one Vert Manager window, but just want to see what I gave that. I don't think I gave it those resources. Yeah, it has 2 gigs of RAM. So I would imagine this would be the capacity adjustment is a way to measure, these are the maximum number of forks that your execution node is going to make, because of course, more forks is more connections and takes more resources. That's not something I've really messed with, but that would be my guess as to how that would work. So we're going to create a second instance group here. Oh, not container group. I think that gets into if you're running this in like a Kubernetes environment or something, but that is, I think, outside the scope of what this exam is, and I can definitely tell you it's outside the scope of my my knowledge. So test instance 2, and we are going to associate lab node 2 with that. Now the other way to create your instance groups, or as best I understand it, is you can define them in your inventory for your setup script. So if I were to, you can do this really kind of anywhere, but you can make a group that is named instance _ group _ something, and that something is going to be the name of the instance group, and your setup script is going to create the instance groups. If I have time, I might run through that, but one little bit of research I did do prior to doing this, because I was curious about it, I don't think there is any type of kind of shortcut. So, you run your setup script and you can say, hey, just make the changes that are now going to be happening to the environment, such as, hey, we've added another execution node or whatever. And I think the reason behind that is because the setup script doesn't really know anything about your environment outside of the inventory, so it doesn't necessarily know what's there, which I think is one of the reasons why it still takes, at least for me, about a half hour to run it, even for just a minor change. I was hoping there was some mechanism to just do change updates, and maybe it does run a little bit faster, but when you do updates, because this stuff is already there. But anyway, you can use your setup to be able to create your instance groups. And I'm fairly sure you can also make them through the API, and so either through your curl commands or the Ansible.controller modules. So let's take a look at our objectives. So we've created and managed the instance groups. Let's see, assign default instance groups to controller inventories or templates. Yep. That's fairly easy to do, especially in the GUI. So let's see what I have for inventories. Inventory project 2. Okay, so I think what I might do, we're just going to create a quick little project here. Actually, what I'll just make changes to project 2 stuff. Maybe a little bit easier. So what I will do, no, that's trying to run VI against a directory is not going to work too well. We're going to copy hosts and copy that to host2.yml. And what we're going to do is just put lab node 3 in that. Let me do this. So we'll remove hosts, kind of lazy. Copy host to host2 again. Change that to 4. Now I could of course use the execution nodes themselves, as managed nodes, but just, I guess, choosing to make stuff a little complicated. And what I'm going to do is change the setup web server. I guess I could keep web servers because I defined that in both. So yeah, we'll do that. Okay. So we will, usually I would do a get status after this, make these changes and sync the project. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. Kind of surprised the GUI didn't change on its own, but that's fine. And we'll go to inventory. I'm actually going to alter the source because I want just one particular inventory file to be used for this. There we go. And just call it project 2 source 1. And let's sync it. All right, so that's still running. Okay, so it's successful. Let's go back to inventories. Okay, I was expecting that to just have lab node 3. So I guess we can do a little bit of troubleshooting with this. So make sure our source is right. Inventory hosts.yml. Make sure project 2 is getting what I expect it to. Source control revision is on that commit. So let's see. All right, that looks like the right commit. Our inventory host is that. That's what we expected, and that's the commit. So why, this is so strange that all 4 of those are there. We updated the project source. Unless it doesn't take, let's see. This must be it. So if checked, any hosts are, well, maybe this is what I needed. All right, so let's save that in sync and see if that's what I needed. I mean, it kind of makes sense that it wouldn't necessarily overwrite what's there, but I would think especially if you're using a project that is in your source control and you're managing the inventory through source control, you would want that. You would want, whatever is in source control is what the deal is. Oh, wasn't quite sure what that was. Okay, that's what I expected to see. Interesting. All right, so we're going to create a second inventory. And I guess we'll put this in the test org since that's where all that other stuff was. I don't really care about the names at this point. Source from a project. That project is project 2. And its inventory file is going to be an inventory host 2.yml. We'll give this a couple of seconds or so to finish. All right, let's go back to sources. And there's lab node 4. All right, so the objective was assign default instance groups to controller inventories or templates. I could kind of see it making a little bit more sense for inventories because those are the actual managed nodes, and oftentimes within your inventory you're going to have that that distinction, especially if there's geographical differences with where your nodes and such are. But I suppose it would make sense possibly in templates as well. But to set that instance group, we'll edit the inventory. We'll pick instance group, and you can do more than one if you would like, but test instance 1. And we'll do project inventory. Actually, no, we'll do a little experiment here. So we've assigned the test instance 1 to project inventory 2. So what we can do, let's go to our job templates. And we're going to set up the web server slightly. And what we're going to do is not have it pick an inventory, but we're going to say prompt on launch. Okay, so let's go back to our job template, and we're going to run this now. Oh, not set up the web page. Oh well, we'll let that one go, and we'll do the one we intended to, which is set up the web server. We have to pick the inventory. We're going to do inventory project 2. So what we should see when this launches and is complete, my little VMs are generally underpowered. Actually, I put some more RAM in my host recently, so I maybe could give these some more resources. I am kind of surprised I haven't seen any output yet, or maybe this is a consequence of doing a little mesh thing. Okay, I expected that to fail because of things. All right, so this actually did end up working, though I'm surprised it didn't show the real-time output. But the important thing, if we were to go to details for this job, you will see that it should show the execution node. Yeah, so it used lab controller 2. That's interesting because unless I made a mistake with my instance group. So let's go back to inventory project 2. I was fairly sure we assigned. Did I not save it? Let's try this again. So test instance 1, save. All right, instance group is there. Let's try this job template again. I probably don't have to wait for that. Yeah, see there it's talking about instance group, and then there's our execution node. So it should, I'm surprised it's still showing as running. But the point of this is that it is now executing against the right node. I guess you can make the point of if it did not have the instance group, it would pick any of the available execution nodes. But instead, we explicitly said that inventory uses that instance group. And then, of course, at the template level, what we could do is set an instance group here. I believe we can set an instance group. Yeah, instance group. And something to remember is that I believe this is going to take precedent over the instance group set for the inventory. So let's put that to the test. We'll save this. We'll launch it. We'll use this inventory that explicitly says, hey, use this particular instance group, but the instance group that is specified in the job template is a different instance group. So let's see if the other lab node is used for execution. Yeah, so it's ultimately using test instance 2 versus number 1, and it will be running against lab node 2 versus the previous run of it used test instance 1, which was what was defined with the inventory, and used lab node 1. So I think we hit these last two. So we assigned a default instance group. Let's see, run controller job templates in a specific instance group. So let's see, go back to here, go back to our job template, and we are going to remove this. I don't remember seeing an option to choose when you run a job template. Obviously this is going to, can I set it here? So I'm not 100% sure what the difference is going to be for run job controller templates in a specific instance group, unless maybe, let's take a look at one thing here. I'll go to my automation hub to look at the documentation. Pretty sure I have this stuff here. Yeah, Ansible view collections, Red Hat certified, find the controller collection, job launch. Is this what I want? Yeah, so I guess we could do that here. We can specify your instance groups when we launch a job with, yeah. So we could specify the instance group as a part of using either the API or the module. Okay, that kind of makes sense. So I think for installing and configuring automation mesh, obviously I'm not a master of this. I don't have memorized all of the different little working parts, but I think have a good basic understanding of it, at least the installation part of it and dealing with instance groups and be able to set defaults and such. So I'm going to consider this a pass. Of course, none of this is like I have everything mastered, but I think unless my exam objective is some kind of off-the-wall thing, I'll do pretty well with it. So hopefully you found this video useful or you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you do click like and feel free to share it with others. I want to thank returning subscribers again for watching another video. And if you have not subscribed yet, make sure you do click that subscribe button and ring the bell when you do so you know when new content is available. I unfortunately don't post on a regular schedule just because kind of life gets in the way. And right now I'm kind of all hands on deck with free time preparing for the exams for RHCA. But if you have the button pressed and I do finally get around to publishing another video, you'll get a notification. As always, thank you for your time, and I will see you the next time.